These are the lecture notes for Chapter 1. This is Part A of Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is just an orientation to the human body. There's a lot of information from this chapter that you're going to need to know that will be important for the entire rest of the course. So this is a pretty important chapter. Not that they're not all important, but this one especially. Why this matters. For every chapter, you always have this little slide that says why this matters. So why this matters is learning and understanding anatomical terminology or medical terminology allows you to communicate accurately with your colleagues in the health sciences. And then I can't I'm not sure if I can play these or not, but I don't play these during the recorded lectures. But during the recorded lectures for all the chapters throughout this course, you will see slides that have little video clips. So I recommend that after you watch my recorded lectures of me explaining the slides to you, the information contained in the slides, that you go back and watch the video clips. This one is is a Career Connection video that's not very long, but I recommend that you go back and watch them. And you can do that by clicking on the Chapter 1A slides that are posted on Moodle. Now, this is section 1.1, and you notice that it's all highlighted in yellow. So what I do is the important information that I consider to be important is highlighted in yellow. So go back to why this matters. I didn't highlight it in yellow. Not that I won't talk about it, but these are the notes that you need to commit to memory, basically. So if it's highlighted in yellow as you go through the slides, those are important notes for you to learn. Okay, and if it's not highlighted, I still may talk about it, but it's probably not something that you have to know for the exams, for the lecture exams. All right, so the first information that you need to know is what anatomy and physiology actually mean. So anatomy means the study of the structure of body parts and their relationship to one another. So anatomy is structure. Physiology is the study of the function of body parts and how they work to carry out life-sustaining activities. And it's really hard to study one without the other because it's the structure that determines the function. The structure or the design of the body part determines its function or how it works together with other body parts. So anatomy and physiology, anatomy is structure, physiology is function. The topics of anatomy are divided into gross or macroscopic anatomy. This is the study of large visible structures that you can see without a microscope. And we focus on studying anatomy through the approach of systemic anatomy. And systemic anatomy looks at just one system at a time. So we go through all the body systems in this course. But we do start with some review chapters. There's Chapter 2 is on chemistry, Chapter 3 is on cells, and Chapter 4 is on tissues. And a lot of that is because that information is important to understanding the information covered in the organ systems chapters, but also because that information is found on the TEAS test, and many of you have taken it or will take it. So it's important information for a lot of reasons because many of you are going into healthcare and will have to take the TEAS test at some point in order to get into the healthcare program that you're interested in. So we do Chapter 2 and 3 as review chapters. But anyway, gross or macroscopic anatomy is when we study structures that we can see without a microscope. And systemic anatomy is how we approach our study of anatomy. We study the body systems, one system at a time, cardiovascular system, nervous system, muscular system, etc. The other subdivision of anatomy is microscopic anatomy, and that is when we study anatomy of structures that we have to use a microscope to see. So when we study cells, which that is called cytology, and that will be covered in chapter 3. And when we study tissues, that is called histology. That will be covered in chapter 4. So these are the two areas of microscopic anatomy. When we study the body systems, that is gross or macroscopic anatomy. The topics of physiology are based on organ systems, like you say renal physiology for when you study the urinary system, for example. We will definitely focus on the physiology of how a nerve impulse is conducted and how a muscle cell contracts, a skeletal muscle contracts. Those are physiological functions that we will study within those organ systems. So anatomy and physiology are inseparable. You have to study, when you're studying physiology, you have to know something about the structures. Function always reflects structure, or physiology always reflects anatomy. What a structure can do depends on its specific form, and this is known as the principle of complementarity of structure and function. So that is how anatomy and physiology are related. A very simple example are, you see this young woman is eating a carrot. She is biting into the carrot with her incisors or front teeth that are designed for cutting or clipping. And then she is chewing with her molars, which are designed for grinding. So that their structure reflects their function. Okay, so in section 1.2, we are going to cover structural organization of the human body, beginning with the simplest level all the way to the organism level, or the actual human being level. So at the chemical level, we have atoms. They're the simplest particles. Atoms combine to form molecules. And then large molecules are arranged to form the cell parts that we call organelles. If you've ever taken a biology class, you may have learned the organelles. Examples would be the nucleus, the mitochondria, the endoplasmic reticulum, lysosomes. So we start with the simplest level, atoms, and then atoms form molecules, and then large molecules form organelles, and all of the organelles plus the plasma membrane forms the cell. So the cellular level is just a single cell. When you have cells that are similar to one another that combine and work together, we call that a tissue. That's groups of similar cells as a tissue. Many tissues, or several tissues, that are organized together into a structure that has a function. So many tissues, 2 or more tissue types, would be an organ, and then several organs that work closely together is an organ system. The human body has 11 organ systems, and all of those organ systems together make up the organism. So these are you need to know these levels of organization, starting from the simplest to the most complex. So make sure you know this list in order: atoms, molecules, organelle, cell, tissue, organ, and then organ system and organism. And this is given, this example is from, these atoms are, let me see if I can figure it out. Okay, so the gray one, the dark gray one is carbon, and the red ones are oxygen, and then the 2 blue ones are hydrogen atoms. The molecules that you see, the one on top is carbon dioxide, composed of carbon in the middle and 2 oxygen atoms on each end, and then water, oxygen in the middle and 2 hydrogen atoms oriented away from the oxygen atom. Okay, so you've got atoms, molecules. The organelle that you're looking at is a mitochondria, and then the cell that you're looking at is a smooth muscle cell. You can see the nucleus and the mitochondria inside of that smooth muscle cell. Then many smooth muscle cells make up smooth muscle tissue. The lining, or the muscular layer of this blood vessel, the blood vessel is the organ. The muscular layer is smooth muscle, but it's lined on the inside with epithelial tissue, and it's lined on the outside with connective tissue. So all these tissues make up the organ, the blood vessel. The blood vessel is part of the cardiovascular system. So is the heart. That would be another organ of the cardiovascular system. And all of the organ systems combine to make up the organism, which is this young man here in this picture kicking the soccer ball. Okay, section 1.3, the requirements for life. This is necessary for life functions, particularly in humans. The maintenance of life involves maintaining boundaries, movement, responsiveness, digestion, metabolism, excretion, reproduction, and growth. Maintaining boundaries is separating the internal and external environments. So there's two examples given here. The plasma membrane of our cells separates the inside of the cell from the external environment. The skin separates the organism, the person, from its environment. So the plasma membranes and skin are examples of maintaining boundaries. Movement can be movement of our body from one location to another, like by walking or running or swimming. But it can also be internal movement. So the muscular system allows movement. And the word contractility refers to movement at the cellular level, because some cells are able to contract, and muscle cells, of course, are able to contract. Responsiveness is the ability to sense and respond to stimuli. The withdrawal reflex, when you touch something hot or something sharp that causes you pain and you withdraw from it, prevents injury. So that's an example of responsiveness. We control, our breathing rate is controlled when we engage in different activities like exercise versus sleeping. We are responding to what our needs are at the time. Digestion is defined as the breakdown of ingested foodstuffs followed by the absorption of simple molecules into the blood. So that's what our digestive system does, is digestion. And we need this function because all of our cells need certain nutrients like glucose and amino acids. Metabolism is all the chemical reactions that occur in our cells, in our body cells. So metabolism can be broken down into reactions that break down molecules into smaller substances and reactions that synthesize larger molecules. So all of the breakdown reactions are called catabolism, and all of the synthesis reactions that build larger molecules are called anabolism. So all of those together are your metabolism, is all your chemical reactions. Excretion, which is what our urinary system is designed to do, is the removal of waste from metabolism and digestion. So one of those wastes is urea. Urea forms from the breakdown of proteins. Another waste is carbon dioxide that forms when we carry out cellular respiration. And we have to get rid of these substances because at high levels they're toxic. And then feces, which is unabsorbed foods, undigestible foods. So these are all part of excretion. Reproduction, at the cellular level, reproduction involves the division of cells. So cells divide so the organism can grow larger and also to repair damage. And then at the organismal level, so at the level of the person, reproduction is the production of offspring. So we have cellular reproduction, and then we have the reproduction of offspring. Growth is defined as increase in size. And Another thing you need to know, if you didn't already, is that humans are multicellular. In fact, you may not know this, but we are composed of around 100 trillion cells. 100 trillion cells. Only 10 trillion of those cells are actually part of our body, though, and 90 trillion on average are microorganisms that live inside of us or on us. And then there are 11 organ systems that work together to maintain life, and we will go over those in the next recording.